All that I can hope is you take me with you when you go. I guess I should have known I can't leave with you when you go. Now Cow Island is awfully quiet, with your screen door staying closed. And if I learned French like you told me, baby, I would hear your ghost.
You know, I had a stage in my life where I preferred warmer climates. You know, and it's quite a while. It was until I went to Korea, I really preferred living in warmer climates, like Alabama, Florida didn't bother me at all. But it was, I think Korea kind of, I was like, okay, maybe I can do cooler temperatures. And I think it was the Afghanistan round 2 that was just like, okay, nope, I am fucking over this shit. Like,
Kandahar is warm. It's hot.
Yeah, terribly hot.
well, and on my second deployment, I did something I didn't even have to do on my first deployment. I'm kind of embarrassed to say this. I had to live for essentially a full month in Afghanistan without AC in Western Afghanistan in Farah and Herat. And it was awful. It was so horrifically hot. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I have never been so uncomfortable in my entire life. Like, we would go and fly, and then we'd come back, and everybody would just strip down to their underwear and like lay on a cot, and like you just try not to move.
Yeah.
That's the only way to stay maintain your body temperature. Because if you move you burn like a single calorie, and like your body temperature rises 10 degrees.
When were you there? Around like May, June?
August.
Oh my God. That's warm.
August of 2017, and then again in September, October 2017. But the August trip was the bad one. That's when it took us about a week just to get the AC working, and when it did work, it was just like
Not good.
not
good.
great.
Yeah.
So we would just but our aircraft air conditioning works phenomenally. So we just made sure we flew a lot more.
For sure.
The Apache is the only American helicopter that has an air conditioning system.
Really?
So
The rest of them, you get that elevation. The air temperatures cool off.
not really. Not when it's sunny and it's blasting through a windscreen.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of the other helicopters that don't have AC, what they'll do is if they're flying in trim, which means aerodynamically into the wind, there's no airflow for the aircraft. So what they'll do is they'll kick it out a little bit. So they'll just put this kind of skirt sideways a little bit so that wind will go in through the doors, and that's how they cool it off. But yeah, it's miserable to fly in a helicopter that has no AC in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And it's only 10% of the reason why I chose to fly the Apache.
10%.
It is only 10%. But
So what's the difference between the regular? Because I've been to regular helicopters, but not Apache. Apache is more fighter.
it's a gunship, so we don't carry passengers at all. It's just 2 pilots and all of the rockets and missiles and guns and stuff like that. So, the aircraft that you've been on before would be Chinooks and Blackhawks, and I know you've got a good Chinook story to tell us later. But they carry passengers, and then the Apaches we're just there to fuck shit up, basically.
Oh wow, nice.
But it's a good place for an intro. We are sitting here with Sarah. Sarah is joining us from an undisclosed location because and her name is also not actually Sarah. And Sarah is joining us because Sarah was a interpreter. She's an American citizen who was working in Afghanistan as an interpreter during the War on Terror. And so, Sarah, we thank you for joining us, for coming on the podcast and giving us a very, very unique viewpoint into Panjwai.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's going to be a little bit of a different format to the show today because usually we ask our guests to give us a lot of their background in their family history or why they joined the military. And for one, you're not in the military; you were a civilian. And two, we don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole because you do have family still in Afghanistan, and we want to do everything we can to protect your identity and theirs. So we'll have a little bit more of a fluid conversation, and if we ever say anything that we shouldn't say, with power of editing, I can take it out. So I guess one place where we can start is if you could tell us a little bit about what you did with the United States military.
I worked with the DoD, working with different branch of the military. I worked with the Marines, Special Forces, Airborne, 82nd Airborne, 4th ID, Army, and yeah, that's about. And then Navy SEALs for like a couple of weeks in Kandahar.
How'd you like working with the SEALs?
It was very different.
Different good, different bad.
Different in a way. Both.
Fair enough.
Let's say both. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a wide range of units, but so like, what was your primary like responsibility in terms of? Did you work on FET teams, or were you working with like a command structure? I mean, what kind of people did you work with as a Terp?
When I signed up and I landed in Bagram, after that they sent me to Helmand working with the female engagement team, Marines, for 3 months. I worked there. After that, I got transferred to Herat, Campstone, working with the 82nd Airborne. I worked at Campstone for a year with the MedCap, Medevac teams, mostly medical stuff. Yeah.
So most of your time as an interpreter in Afghanistan was in the West or the South, right?
Yes, South. Yeah, Western. And my second deployment was Kandahar. Yep.
Okay. Now, so which languages do you speak?
I speak 4 languages, 5 with English.
Oh my gosh.
Which 2 of them are from Afghanistan. Pashto and Dari are from Afghanistan.
Okay. What else do you speak?
I speak Urdu, which is
okay.
Urdu and Punjabi.
Okay. That's quite the skill set. I mean, the Dari and the Pashto makes sense growing up in Afghanistan. I mean, I don't think you can get away with, or unless you just stay in your village your entire life, only knowing one language in Afghanistan when they have like, what, 7?
Yes, they have quite a few languages. Yeah.
And what's some of like the functional differences between like Dari and Pashto?
It's just the dialect is different, and also I think there's like a couple of alphabet that's added to Pashto alphabet, and the dialect is totally different. But the writing style is the same writing style. Added a couple of alphabet.
They're both written in Arabic, right?
Yes, it's Arabic alphabet.
Right.
Yeah.
But nothing. That's what's fascinating me about Pashto is it's like it's Arabic alphabet, but it sounds nothing like Arabic.
Totally dissimilar.
Except for like they'll steal words here and there. You know?
Yes, we do exchange words with the Arabic here and there, as you said, but it's very different. Even when we try to pronounce, sometimes it's different.
Right.
Than Arabic. Pronunciation is very different.
And so, like, because obviously Afghanistan is not only a multitude of languages, but there are a multitude of tribes and dialects. I mean, did you ever run into situations where, like, your functional knowledge of even Pashto, like, wasn't the same as the area you were working in?
Definitely, yes. There was a couple times that we were on missions in I was having a hard time understanding. But the good part was that we had a local interpreter with us, so he would assist with the translation and things. Yeah.
Now, kind of given some of the cultural issues associated with being a female and then being an interpreter, was there always also a male interpreter with you, or were you ever the primary interpreter on the ground?
There has been times that we did have shortage of male interpreters. There's always was shortage of interpreters in Afghanistan, as you guys know very well. We did have shortage just because our male interpreter got hurt or he was home for vacation. So I was basically translating for two teams at the same time, for men and the women that I used to work with.
Now, did that cause problems in some of the villages where, you had a female that was interpreting for, male like elders and stuff like that? Was that ever an issue?
In modern areas, modern cities such as Herat and Shindan and Farah, places like that, it wasn't an issue. They respected us very much so, and they treated us just like their daughters. But in Helmand and Kandahar, where the tribes are different, they're more Pashto speaker and they're very strict with their women. It was hard. It was very difficult for me to do my job, just because the men wouldn't open up to speak to me or to the team, because they would think that I'm a woman and I'm supposed to be at home, sitting at home, not what am I doing here working.
Right. And I imagine, even I know you wore a hijab and you did your best to try and alleviate some of those local concerns, but there's no way that they're oblivious. Like, I'm sure that only goes so far in certain villages.
Yes, and the thing about wearing a scarf, a headscarf, it is kind of giving them the respect of, okay, you're Muslim and we're supposed to be wearing scarf. With female soldiers did wear scarves, but us wearing military gear and military outfit was not okay. We were supposed to wear full-on hijab.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure in some of the villages you went to, they would have liked to see you in a full burqa too.
Yes, in some villages that's true, but most of the time, like some of them were very intrigued by the way we were as women. Like it depended. It varied from one person to another person's perspective, because most of the time we would talk to the commander. For example, we caught this guy and who's the commander of the Taliban, and during the interrogation, what we would ask me to marry him and be his fourth or seventh wife.
Oh my gosh! What was your response?
She said yes, Luke.
Yeah, obviously, she said yes. Oh, man.
And I would say, well, if I marry you, quote unquote, you will just sit me at home and have me have kids and not let me do what I'm doing right now. And he would be like, oh no, I'll just keep you as like this princess in a big cage, and nice cute cage, and put you up there and sit you somewhere.
When you sell it like that, who doesn't want to live in a cute cage?
Sounds great.
And he would say, you're not made for this work, and you're supposed to be at home like a princess in a cage.
Oh man, wow, that's pretty interesting for sure. So in your kind of like day-to-day work, how often did you talk to women, and like what kind of conversations did those your conversations with women lead to? Like, did you lead to intelligence, or was it just kind of a general feeling for how everybody's doing? I mean, what were those interactions like?
That's a very good question, because I get asked a lot of this question.
Yeah.
Our mission was to collect intelligence.
Yeah.
And then second was to just give out food or milk for the children that were malnourished, and also medication for people who are sick. So our primary target was to collect and tell. That was our thing. So as we were giving out medication or treating them, we'd always ask questions about who's new to this village and what's going on, and just collect and tell.
So what kind of like did you guys receive training in how to kind of cultivate those questions and how to steer conversations towards revealing particular intelligence like facts, I guess, or was it just something that you just picked up as you got into the job?
We did get training for a month in Baltimore, but it wasn't enough training.
Yeah.
So at first, I was kind of a rookie when I got to the job. I didn't know much, but as I kept on working with the teams, and before we were heading out, they would give us kind of a training or what do you call it? Briefings. And during the briefings, they would tell us how to negotiate and speak and ask questions in different ways.
How often did that lead to really good intelligence, like especially from talking to women?
Most of the time, I would say 80% of the time it was accurate, whatever we used to collect. Other 20% was not as successful as because the people of the village were very united with the Taliban.
Yeah.
So dependent on the villages.
Did you ever get the idea that these women were true believers in that, like they actually stood with the Taliban, or was it more of like out of fear thing, like I'm going to toe the company line so that I don't get my head cut off kind of thing?
I think it was both, the combination of both. Most women were very well, as you know, women are very soft. They have a soft heart and soft spot, and when you meet them, they try to be as helpful as they can. But the thing is that they were feared for their children's life, husband's lives. So that's why they were not. They were trying to protect their own families.
Yeah.
Other than that, Afghan women are very resilient, and they're very true and honest, and they're simple too. Especially in the villages, they're very simple. You can tell them anything and they will believe it, but they had to protect their families.
And did you ever get anything from the women about like disapproval about what you were doing? I mean, obviously we talked about earlier, the men expressed disapproval, but did the women ever express disapproval? Or did they ever ask you about what you were doing and how you did it or why you were doing it?
Yes, of course. Women would ask that all the time, and they did not ask me in objective ways. They would ask me in a very interested that what people like me or women like me were doing in the military, working with the foreigners. They wanted to be someone like me, or their daughters to be someone like me, educated, being in different country and all that. But unfortunately, they couldn't. It's hard for them, and and most of the time I would feel myself when I used to go on missions and come back to the base. I would feel myself very lucky to be who I am, and seeing that pain in their eyes was not easy for me to deal with, because they want to be free, they want to be educated, they want to do things on their own, they want to be world travelers and do things, make changes, but they can't because of the oppression, and they're very suppressed by their men.
I feel like that was one of my biggest takeaways from my experience in Afghanistan, was like the hope for the country, from my 2 cents, was with the girls and the women, because like that was where the potential for some serious change could have happened, And so I've always carried that forward, like in my day to day. Even today, like I was thinking about it, and my heart kind of breaks thinking about these like beautiful Afghan girls who, yeah, especially out in Panjway, where there's no opportunity for them to do anything other than stay at home. It's just that was always like my thing. I came away from my experience with a determination to, I guess, double down on advocacy for girls having access to things like education and opportunity, because it was, that was a heartbreaking thing to see for me as an outsider coming in. So I would imagine for you being Afghan, it was even more heartbreaking to see that.
Well, I mean, the thing is, those, when we've said it before, we talked about it last week with General Abrams, no one's coming to save the girls of Panjway.
Yeah.
If you're a girl born into a Pashto tribe, there's probably not a worse like lifestyle to be born into in the civilized world right now. Maybe there is. I don't know.
I think that is.
Yeah, I mean, what were some of the challenges that you observed when you went into some of those villages for those girls? I mean, they're being married off pretty young, were they not?
Yes, very young, at age of 9 and up. Yeah. It started. I read somewhere, according to Geneva Convention survey or whatever they did, I think Afghanistan, I did read that Afghanistan is the most poorest and backward country in the whole world right now. In case of education, facilities like going to a doctor, food, of course, places that they live that are like, I'm sure you saw those places close to Panjway, like there's nothing around them, and there's like a village with a couple of houses, and they're all mud huts. And I don't think in any country in the world we have situation like that. Even in Africa, there are places that they can go, there are facilities, they can go see a doctor, do things, even if they're very poor. But at the same time, they do have services, they do have education, right, and they have schools. But in Afghanistan, there's no such thing.
Well, I mean, in Africa, I mean, there's a widespread support for children going to school. And in Afghanistan, not all of Afghanistan, but in the Pashto regions of Afghanistan, there's not a whole lot of support for little girls going to school.
That's true. It's very sad. Now that the Taliban closing the school on any city, everywhere, it's just heartbreaking. Like you see the girls are crying. Social media. When I check social media and I see girls are always crying because they want to go to school. And it's just sad. It's very sad.
Now, when was the last time you were in Afghanistan before you came back to be an interpreter?
6 years old.
When you were 6 years old?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. So, I mean, so that's, so far ago. I mean, did you even remember what it was like when you were there as a 6-year-old? I mean...
No.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I wouldn't remember. I couldn't tell you what I was doing when I was 6 years old. And what was it like to watch Afghanistan kind of change over the course, even just the few years that you were there?
Like from Kabul area and from modern cities that I used to hear and see things on the media or social media or, hear it from people. I was very happy for the people that were in these big cities, the urban cities. There were like schools, there fashion, there malls, there's, things like amusement parks, there like bookstores, internet cafes. I was very happy that, okay, Afghanistan's changing. Like for the past 40 years, it has gone through so much. And then now it's changing, especially for a few, like 5-6 years ago. Like it was kind of getting to the point that people were getting stable, more educated. People were traveling back and forth to different countries. Everything was just okay. And different countries would provide visa for Afghans to go abroad to study and or visit with their families and stuff. But it was pleasant. It was a very pleasant experience for me and my family. But once we left, once Americans left, everything changed for the worst, not for the better.
Yeah, and I think that was like our experience on the ground in 2012, being in the far-flung reaches of Afghanistan. It was really hard for us in that like day-to-day grind to see the positive impact of like us being out there in the nether regions. It was hard to see or to conceptualize the positive impact happening in places like Kabul. And I feel like, now with some time and some wisdom, it's like, I know, well, we've always said it was not a waste, right? It was worth it. That's kind of been our motto for veterans, because people in Kabul got to live real lives for a good chunk of time, and people in other more modern cities got to live real lives. So there's a lot of reward in that, knowing that our small little piece that we tried to contribute to was able to allow people elsewhere to live and have access to things that they wouldn't have had access to otherwise.
Definitely, even in the villages that we were making differences. Like, people used to get to know things like such as computer, phone, or high tech stuff. But now it's going backwards, basically.
Yeah.
I remember there was a time I was working in Pasab. I know even there we had like veterinaries came in, and military vets and veterinarian.
Mm-hmm.
They used to come and educate people about their livestocks, and they were getting used to these classes and information about livestock, about how to do gardening, about how to do different things. I don't think they'll get that.
Yeah.
They won't have any opportunities to get all of those information.
Yeah, and especially in those rural areas. I mean, I think, depending on the success of the NRF's spring campaign, I think Kabul could still see some of the residual effects of us introducing modernity back to Afghanistan. Just because the Taliban won't shut off the cell towers, and they haven't shut off the internet. They may try to control it, but the cat's out of the bag at this point. People can access the internet. But places like Zari, Panjwai, there's not gonna be any programs like that there. They can lock that down and put it all back under strict Islamic law, and just start smashing solar panels and cell phones, and no one's going to be able to ever do anything about it. But
that's very true.
But maybe there's a glimmer of hope for like northern Afghanistan and Kabul. Maybe the NRF can take it back, and there will be a piece of Afghanistan that can still reside in the modern era. We'll see. I'm pulling for you. Pulling for you guys. Go fuck them up.
Fingers crossed.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what about working with like the Americans? I mean, we talked briefly about how the SEALs was like a okay experience, I guess. But what was it like, working with the various American units?
Very interesting and very different. You get to work with so many different personalities, so many different teams that they have their own ways, and you have to kind of get used to it or adjust yourself. It's very challenging. It's not easy to work, as you military men are very particular about your missions or your thought process or your trainings. it was difficult at the beginning to get adjusted, but throughout my experience, even now when I sit back and I think about myself and how I changed as a person, is that I try to adapt this personality I try to adapt quickly, just to make things work, even in daily life, like day-to-day life here. I've changed. Before that, I wasn't like that. I was in a specific way and I had my own ways, and that's it. No one could tell me anything about what to do or how to do things differently. But working with the military, with different teams, with different branches, you have to have this personality that can adapt things and change for the better, of course, to change for the better, and take the worst as a lesson.
Did you ever? Because obviously there's different levels of interpreters within American units, and as an American citizen, I'm sure that that's why you spent a lot more time with like the special operations units. Did you feel that you were treated significantly better because you were an American citizen than some of the local Terps?
I feel like I was treated equally to the local interpreters. The teams really did stand up for the local interpreters because their life were more in danger than it was for me, because I was protected in so many ways, because I'm a female, first of all. Second, I am from the States and I'm in between the whole American environment team. But the Afghan interpreters that were local, they had more chances of getting hurt, even by the Afghan military or the Afghan civilian when they go on missions. So the term, the green on blue something, it might have happened with a lot of interpreters when they with local interpreters. Like if the Afghan commander, the ANA commander, doesn't like what interpreter is saying, he might get shot at or get killed or slapped or something. So I did have the advantage of being protected, not dealing with the Afghan military as much.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. The Americans that you worked with, we'll talk about the SF guys later, but like the conventional units, did you find yourself mostly spending time with like the commanders, or were you going out on patrol more? Were you listening and on the radio more? What was the best way that they used you?
I did all of them together.
Okay, fair enough.
I would be at the talk, or I'd be like on the tower listening, or when we were on patrol, I'm just listening to the radio, or when we're on a foot patrol, I have to, be very cautious and listen to what people are saying around us in the villages or inside someone's house. So you have to be very cautious and kind of have like sixth sense ready. Like listen, translating, talking while you're listening to the vibes around you, or what that person's saying, what this person says. So you have to have like all your conscious like spread out through it in a mud hut or in a room, or if you're I'm listening to a radio telecom and I have to type what they're saying in Pashto, or they're saying in Pashto and I have to write it in English, or if we were out listening to the radio, I have to quickly translate and then listen, quickly translate and listen quickly. Like it was like all over. Like there was times that we were short of interpreters, and I had to go out at like 3 a.m. with the guys only. It would be only me. There was an incident that we went on a patrol at 3 a.m, and because I couldn't hear anything inside the Humvee because I had the radio with me, the radio with me, and they had to like kind of put me on top of the Humvee and me listening, and all of the sudden I'm hearing that the guy is saying, yeah, their interpreters is like on the radio, and she's sitting on top of the Humvee.
Oh no.
Get out! Get down!
So I was like, oh, there's no way I'm sitting here while I'm gonna get a sniper or something right in my neck or somewhere. So it's so funny because the Humvee was like kind of like the door was open because the gunner was standing right next to me. Mm-hmm. So I jumped inside the Humvee. I was like, no way I'm standing over there or sitting outside by myself.
I feel like that's the thing, right? About being an interpreter is like, you're out there with us, like in the thick, in the shit, basically. And but you got no means of defending yourself outside of what we were able to provide. You're not carrying a weapon or whatever. So, like, what do you remember the first time you got shot at?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How'd that story go?
To be honest with you, we started in a firefight, and they kind of pulled me and put me in the someone, I think for a Charlie guy. He grabbed his sniper, and I kind of quickly helped him with the sniper to get it from the Humvee, and then he kind of grabbed me and put me inside the Humvee while we were getting shot at. So I'm just sitting there, la 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 la, and I had a book with me, okay, and it was the book was Danielle Steele's book, okay.
Oh, really?
I love her.
Yeah.
So I'm just like reading the book, and we're getting shot at.
That's too good.
Okay.
The driver is just sitting there, and like he's waiting for the guys to come back so we can leave, because we're about to leave. We got shot at a area that was like a residential area, so we couldn't shoot back at them. Oh. So yeah, and when we came back, they were all making fun of me that, it didn't really matter for Sarah. She was just like reading her book, Danielle Steele, and did not care about getting shot at.
I feel like
that's like, some real gangster shit.
That
you went
like,
straight to being like an expert when you first firefight.
Yeah, that was my first firefight.
I just feel like that's a very Afghan move right there for sure.
Yeah, that's
like, I'm just gonna read my book while this is going on. It's all good.
Whatever.
That is pretty funny.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely read books in combat, but I don't think I've ever read a book while I was being shot at. That usually convinced me, it's like, I guess I should put this away and do my job.
Did you ever have any moments where you got really frustrated with your, like, did you ever feel like you needed or wanted to, like, grab a gun and get into it if you had to, or were you always pretty cool with just like stepping aside, letting everybody do the work, and you get in the Humvee or whatever
and reading a book?
No, I really did wanted to get in there and shoot back and do the things that guys were doing, like, badass things. Although there's once I tried it, but the lieutenant of the team did not let me. He pulled me back. He grabbed me. He pulled me back. He's like, "You can't do that." I didn't have a gun with me. Yeah, he didn't let me. He said, "No, you can't do this."
You were too valuable of an asset, I would imagine.
Yeah.
To be out there slinging lead, getting shot at.
I can only think of one time we gave our terp, we had the different level terps, so sometimes, like, if a Cat A terp went out, he could carry a gun, but when it was just our normal terps, I only remember one time giving a guy a gun, and that's because it was like, we have nobody left here. I hope you know how to use this gun. And the one I gave to him didn't work anyway because it had been blown up. But I felt better that he was at least carrying it.
He was carrying one, yeah.
Oh my god, that's crazy. There was one time our base got attacked in Maiwand, and no one was up. So I got up because I heard the shots. I got up and the Charlie guy got up too. So he said, "Sarah, did you hear that?" I said, "Yes, I did. Let's go." So I'm like carrying his gun, and he's like walking in front of me. So we're just going to the tower and see what's going on to the A&A side. And just, just like that, he just gave me his gun and he's like, "You got my back, right?" I said, "I got your back. Just go do your thing." And he went up there and threw flares and everything, and nothing happened. So it was just a cowardly attack. Yeah, but yeah, that was a night that I remember. And when we came back, everyone's still sleeping. Like nothing had happened.
Or were they sleeping, or were they reading books?
Yeah, they took a textbook example from your example.
It's like, don't worry, got this. I'm gonna knock out a couple chapters. Oh man.
You said like the Charlie guy. Do you mean like the 18 Charlie, like SF guys you're working with?
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what was that experience like working with SF?
It was very intense. It was intense working with the 4th ID and 82nd Born, of course, Airborne. Mm-hmm. But I think SF and SEALs were very intense.
What was the biggest differences you saw working with SF versus conventional forces, and how they used you as an interpreter?
With the SF, I was just exposed to everything and anything that war has to offer. Like I was in the middle of the war. I was like right at front line. But working with the other units like 82nd or 4th ID, we were more shield, because we already had people up front. Mm-hmm. And all we did was, the team that I work with, all we did was, do medevac or medcaps missions and stuff like that, or collect intel, or go from one base to smaller bases, from the smaller bases to different smaller bases. With the special forces, I was right in the middle of everything, and I saw everything. And till today, those things kind of haunt me because I wasn't ready and I wasn't trained to see those things. Mm-hmm. Like people getting shot at, people getting blown up by an IDs, like 6-7 people at the same time would just show up like in front of us with losing lost limbs. Mm-hmm. Or whenever we are on missions, we get a shot at, or someone just blew up right in front of me. That's like ANA or ALP, Afghan Local Police. So yeah, it was more intense working with special forces, and that kind of changed me as a person as well. It just gave me a different perspective about war, because before that I thought war was something totally simple and easy, and it's not as hardcore. But I guess it just, it matures you up, and it just makes you a whole person when you see those things and you value life now.
Well, we always like to say that, war, like individual experiences may vary. And even just, the difference between being an interpreter in one area and interpreting a different area, or conventional forces versus special operations forces. The same thing applies to us. I mean, I know guys that do the same job we do who went on deployments and never saw anything, or they spent their whole time on the big base. So it's kind of interesting to see how how your experience varied going between the two different types of units. Mm-hmm. And because, you had opportunities that we would never have, to see multiple different types of units in a single rotation. For us, it's like luck of the draw. Like, you got what you got, and it ain't going to change.
Right. You guys were attached to a special forces though, right?
No, we were, okay. We had our own base. We were normal infantry guys sitting on spur one guard, trying not to get blown up.
Okay. That place is very dangerous.
Yeah.
Spur one guard is dangerous.
Did you ever spend any time out there?
Yeah, I actually traveled through there. I was there for a couple hours, and then we traveled through there.
Okay. What was that like?
Very similar to Gorak. Gorak was similar to that, and Jarre. Very similar. They're all the same. Those areas, very dangerous.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot of diversity in Western Kandahar or the Arghandab River Valley. There's some places that might be like there's some places north of the river, like kind of in the Arghandab district, that are actually extremely forested, which is kind of odd. But for the most part, it's all just grape rows and grape huts and backwards people. And I probably shouldn't say that, but it's the same people in the same villages and the mud huts and the grape rows and the irrigation canals. I mean, going all the way out to Helmand, it's pretty much the same.
It really is, yeah.
What did you think about working in Helmand versus working in the Arghandab Valley? I mean, because I've flown over both, and they're kind of similar, but they also seem like they're a little bit different.
Helmand is a hell place, like a hellhole, what they say. It was the most dangerous place on the face of Earth. Like, I remember when they put me there first, I was so scared. And
that's right. That was your first assignment.
Yes. And at nighttime, we were in a all black out base. So when we used to, get out to go do things around the base, and it was all black, pitch black, and I used to get so scared. And also going to different villages in Helmand, even the vibe of it would make you feel scared. Like you get the vibe in your stomach, and you feel like sick, kind of. And dealing with people as well was kind of hard, because Helmand people were very hard to crack. They were all puppy dealers. They're pro-Taliban. Men, women, children. They did not like us. They were not open to speak to us, even the women. They were just straight up gangster.
Straight up gangster Helmand folk.
Yes. So that was I think that's the most dangerous place that I've ever been to, was Helmand, in different areas of Helmand.
And do you remember the moment when you're like, I might have bitten off more than I really wanted. I might be a little over my head. Like, was there ever a moment you're like, you kind of regretted signing up?
Yes. And yes. Yes. Especially when I landed first in Helmand. For at least a couple of months, I was very scared, and I was like, what did I just do? Because my best friend promised me that she will go with me, and she backed out at the last minute.
No! Oh, man, that's like, don't worry, bro, I'll sign up for the army with you. It's like, oh man, I started dating this girl, and I'm like, you fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, she totally said, okay, she'll go with me and everything. And then at the last minute, while the ticket was booked to go to Baltimore, she said she can't. She's too scared.
I mean, it's valid. I mean, it sucks she left you high and dry, but
yeah. Man.
Yeah.
But as you kind of like got into the pace of the job and everything, like, I mean, what was it about the job that kind of, because you stayed with it for quite a few years, right?
Yes. After my first deployment, I came home. I kind of got sick to be home. I wanted to go back and try to keep on make a difference and be around those people, be around villagers, be there. I missed it. I'm pretty sure you guys feel the same way when you came home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely. For at least a year or so.
It's pretty common for guys to really want to go back. Unfortunately for us, we usually don't have the opportunity to. You can't just sign up to go back.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah.
So what did your family think when you came back and then said you wanted to go back again?
They were kind of shocked. They're still shocked that I did what I did. Yeah, they didn't think I would have it in me. Um, but me returning as this very strong person, and experiencing what I experienced. And sometimes when I tell them stories here and there, I really don't open up a lot. But when I like drop a story here and there, they kind of just, are quiet. They don't say anything to my face, but I'm pretty sure they think that, the war did a number on me.
It did a number on all of us, if we're being completely honest. And then it's not. I don't find that unusual at all that you would have come home a slightly different person than you left, especially that first rotation. And I'm sure that they saw it because I know my family saw it. Were they pretty supportive at the when you initially decided to go the first time?
No, I mean they were okay, but like they were kind of scared for me. But
Sure, yeah,
that's
logical. But I think it's pretty cool that, especially, you hear a lot of stories, and this is obviously, stereotype to a degree of how controlling Afghan parents can be. And I think it's very, very cool that was something that they supported you in doing.
Yes, they really did, especially my mother. She's very supportive. She still is. My dad is too, and that's what I like about my family because they're so educated.
Mm-hmm.
Education is the key for understanding, and they did understand.
Yeah, that's really cool. That was the kind of the dynamic. And when you went, so did you go back 2 times, or you went back a total of 2 times, or is it a total of 3 times?
Total of 2 times.
Total of 2 times. Okay, so
Yeah.
the second one you said was the Kandahar deployment.
Right.
What was it like going back after you had been gone for, I guess about a year or so?
To be honest with you, I really enjoyed it because at that time I was all ready and I had all the experiences that I needed. I had all the training that I needed working for the first time. The second time was just like a piece of cake and I was so brave. The second time I was just so brave. Like I didn't care. As I told you the story, like we were getting shot at, I'm just sitting there and reading book. Like I got so brave that I enjoyed working, being in a war zone and appreciating every single thing that was America was offering while I was here. And I'm still appreciative of everything that's America's offering us because Afghans don't have that. Most people don't have that. And yeah, it was fun while it lasted.
Were there any like specific experiences in either of the 2 deployments that kind of stand out to you?
With both deployments, my first person that I saw who was blown up by an IED, there were 2 local police, in Cop Ricketts. I'm not sure if you remember in Herat, Cop Ricketts. It was a small fire operation base. So their truck were that came, that was blown up, and the guy lost his feet, both feet, one of them, and the other one just lost a leg and an arm. And the guy that lost both his feet was just screaming, saying that just kill me right now. I don't want to be alive. So that was my first incident that I saw someone being in so much pain and losing a limb, 2 limbs actually, and screaming to be dead. It's better to be dead than to alive. That's still with me, and his face and his voice still with me. The second deployment was when 6 or 7 people from a village, just civilian village, they stepped on an IED that was made in a tire of a big truck. So it was like a couple kids and then 2 or 3 male. They brought them to us and they were really messed up, like to the point that they had only torsos left, and they were alive. But after a couple of days, of course, they passed away, all of them together. They evacuated them to Kandahar hospital, and after that, a couple of days after, we heard that they all passed away. So those two, well, the first IED incident that I remember, and the one with the 7 people that died altogether. So yeah. And then, I mean, when I was out there, I would see people, getting blown up in front of me by an ID. My last one was this guy who was ALP and was just gotten married like a week ago, I think, at the time when we went there. And he stepped on a booby trap at the front door. He tried to enter and see who's at this, mud hut, and there was nobody. And as soon as the commander yelled at him not to go in there, and he went there, and he stepped on the ID at the door, and he got blown up, and then he was in 2 pieces. So that was one of the hardest ones too. Just because he just got married, he was so happy. Before we went for a mission, he was just talking about his bride and how happy he is, and how his bride is so beautiful, and they were so much in love. And he was just like, he was telling me all these things as a friend, like kind of a friendly talk, and I would just see happiness in his eyes. And after a couple hours, I see him getting killed.
I mean, that's a pretty powerful anecdote. I mean, was it common for you to speak extensively with the ALP and ANA that you went out with? I mean, what was your relationship like with them?
So when we were in the base or FOB, I would not hang out with them, because it's the different mentality, and they might expect something from me, and and all that. Or sometimes they just kill you, shoot you, just for no reason, because you're a woman. But when we used to get, like, for example, we're going for a mission today, we're waiting, we're getting briefed, and we're waiting, and they're waiting as well. So we're together waiting for a helicopter or something, and we're talking, just, exchanging words and talking. That's when I got to know them a little bit.
Okay, gotcha. So kind of when the Americans were around and everything was kind of more controlled, which I don't blame you. You wouldn't have caught me walking over to the ANA side of our base by myself either.
Yeah.
Just there's strength in numbers.
They're very unpredictable. You could not tell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, especially that time. I mean, like you mentioned, the green on blue, it was happening left and right, and PFC Grace doesn't know if he just offended some dude on the IED training course last week. I'm not culturally, my cultural IQ on Afghan culture isn't high enough for me to even recognize whether I've offended somebody. So it's probably not in my best interest to be wandering around by myself. So I don't blame you.
Did you guys get to go to their when they used to cook lamb or something and invite us? Did you guys used to go and have a feast?
Once, but they came to us. They came and they cooked a traditional Afghan meal in our dining facility. There were a few times some people got to go over to like some of the smaller bases or some of the villages, and they'd cook for them. But I never got to do that. I don't know if you did, Luke.
No, I never did. I forgot that they came and cooked for us one time, though. That slipped my mind. Because I feel like typically, because of the nature of being in an infantry unit, if there was things like that going on, it was like the command. It was like the commander and the higher enlisted and stuff like that. So us average Joes didn't get a chance to partake as often. Or if we did go, it was full security.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't anything special. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
You guys are very special. What you guys did over there is not easy for someone to do.
Appreciate
I
that.
appreciate that.
Um,
Speaking of where we were at, we were down in Panjway, and this is the Panjway podcast. So I know you said you had swung by Spearman Garden, that area, but you know your experience in Kandahar, was it always concentrated down in like Zari and Panjway in that area? Like, what were you doing down in there?
Yes, I was in Panjway for I think 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
When they grabbed me from CAF, they took me to Panjway, and I had to stay there for 3 days for my team to come pick me up. And I stayed in Panjway for 3 days. I like you guys' chow hall, by the way. You guys had everything in there.
Yep.
And you guys had a cook as well. I think he was Afghan.
Yeah, we usually
had a couple of Afghan cooks.
Yeah, we had a couple Afghan cooks, and we had like one American cook that supervised poorly. We love you, Hoxie. Even if you did try to shoot me once, I'm never gonna let you forget it.
No way he did.
100%, absolutely. He got a little turned around in a firefight, and I was on top of a grape hut, and we were shooting at the bad guys, but I think maybe he got confused about which direction the bad guys were because he turned his 50 cal towards us, and it was an unpleasant experience. It was short lived, but I didn't appreciate being shot at by our cook with a 50 cal. So
I'm glad you're okay. You made it alive.
yeah, that would have been an embarrassing way to go out. Just
That'd been a
saying.
bad way to go. Yeah.
That's not. It's not what I want. That's not what I want the army to tell my family. It's like, oh yeah, the cook shot him. It's like, what? If the cook's gonna kill me, do it on like Stir Fry Friday or something like that. Don't do it with 50 cal.
exactly. Give us some kind of stomach bug, shit yourself to death.
So on the way from Panjway, going back to my base with my team, I lost one of my bags, the military bags, the duffel bag with all my stuff in it. Everything wasn't there. So the infantry team that was assigned with us, they just put my bag in there and didn't tie it as good. So I lost my bag. Good thing that all my documents and stuff was in my other bag. And I thought, oh my God, I lost my passport and everything. But luckily, all my documents was in a different bag.
That is such a typical infantry mistake to make. Like not tying a backpack down in the back of a truck or something.
Yeah.
Speaking as somebody who did that once.
Are you sure it wasn't you?
No, it was not me because it was my stuff that got run over.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's a good story.
Actually, that was a good story, except it actually technically wasn't my fault. I did secure it. However, somebody else put something in after me. And then Kobos, the guy driving the truck behind us, sees my bag fall out the back of the truck. He's like, oh, I'm just going to drive over it. And just fucking drove over my bag. And the best part is he got in more trouble for driving over it than I did for not securing it properly. But it's a very, very infantry private thing to do, to just toss a bag in the back and then it falls out halfway down the road.
Mm-hmm.
We do have the lowest IQ for entry for a reason.
Not that bad.
You're just being modest.
No, it's real. Like you can the dumbest job in the military is the infantry. The smartest job is also the infantry, but when the gates are set on the extreme wide end, you get quite the range of intelligence. And sometimes really intelligent people could do really stupid things too.
That's true.
That's true.
So that was your one time in Panjway. Did you spend? And you mentioned you spent some time up in Pasab and Zari too, right?
Yes, Zari, the Zari district we went to when they already closed down, and we heard that the Taliban were taking over again. So we went again.
Great.
To see what was going on, and
And what was that like?
We stayed at the Zari for a week.
Okay.
And they had this new clinic. I think it was built new clinic. I don't know if you guys saw that. A big building from Afghan government, and women and children was coming for treatment, and
Okay.
we went there as well, and we were just there to feel the environment.
Sure.
But at that point, it was too late because Taliban was already surrounding the area, and
And
we kind of left.
right. Was this with the SF teams?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then you also spent a little bit of time out in Maiwan too with the SF teams.
Yes, Maiwand, Jareh, Dekobat.
Okay.
What's the other one? Dekobat. There's another one that we just stopped by from Panjwai while going to Maiwan. It was just a fueling up place, not like a base or anything.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I don't know, guys, if you guys remember the name of the place, but I forgot.
I know there was up there was Fob Wilson, there was Pasab. I'm not super familiar with the Zari AO. For us, we lived our entire 9 months in this itty bitty little bubble down at Spurwangar, so we didn't get to venture out too much. But I could see Pasab from the top of the hill. That's all I knew it was there.
Pasab was really weird because us, like the special forces team, were like in this separate, like inside of hub and the whole base. So we had, for chow, we would have to get out and go outside and eat with with just infantry team. And there were times that we could not go to the gym by ourselves as women, or to the chow hall by ourselves, because every time the ANA would pass by us with their trucks or whatever, they used to take pictures of us or say things, or so there was times that we couldn't go outside of our hub at Pasab.
Without like an American escort?
Yes, with someone with a gun, because I think some people got assaulted as well. People without a gun, men.
Now that you mention that, I remember hearing, and maybe this is the first or second deployment. Might have been a second deployment. It was a second deployment. Somebody got kidnapped. An American soldier got kidnapped by an ANA soldier, and raped. I do remember. Yeah, I remember more of the details. Like just one dude, with a gun. So
yes, that would happen a lot in Pasab.
Whew, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy stuff. And you walk around thinking you're invincible, and you turn a corner and I guess you're just not. That's just in a place where you're supposed to feel safe and protected, which is kind of bullshit, to be honest.
Yeah.
That stuff like that could happen. But so I mean, you did your 2 tours in Afghanistan, came back, resumed a normal life, and kind of describe to us best you can what it was kind of like to watch the last couple of years happen. Well, how was that for you personally, without going into too much detail, because obviously we don't want to expose anything, but
like my personal life after war?
No, just
coming home.
What was it like seeing what was happening in Afghanistan as we drew down our forces and the Taliban started to start taking things back over?
I think at first I was at denial. I was like, no, it's not happening. It's not happening. How could it happen? Like, this is it's, America fought for so long. They're not going to let it go. And then came the time that they withdrew, and we saw things that happened at the airport. People died at the airport, and it was very sad. People hanging from the airplane. That was very sad and shocking. It was very shocking, and then sad, and then confusing. it's just, it's something that you can never ever expect, especially if you have been there, fought, have seen American soldiers died, or civilians died, and to just America to just withdraw just like that and leave. That was very unbelievable at first, and then sad, and till today it's kind of like I feel blue about it. Like the whole situation just went down so bad, and different things took a turn in a very different direction. And I'm sure all soldiers that I've served in war in Afghanistan, they feel the same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like in one of the things that we've always, like I said earlier, we've always driven home is like there's a lot of good to come of our experiences there, like in spite of how it's turned out. It's like for you, like what's been a really good experience or good takeaway from your time in Afghanistan that you'll kind of cherish and you'll hold on to?
My coworkers that I work with, and the relationships that I built with my coworkers, of course, military, and the people that we helped medically or in any way or shape or form, financially, their smiles, their happiness, seeing their expressions, that will always stay in my heart. And the places that I went to, and there are some times that I listen to these songs that I used to listen to when we used to, drive back from a mission or something, and I would remember all those scenes, like remembering those scenes that, okay, yeah, I was in Afghanistan, I was in these places that I would never have thought in my whole life I would go. And I think that's so beautiful for me, especially because it's my motherland, and I saw places that even probably my grandfather have never seen those places. Those and the relationships that I built with people I work with, and experience. Experience is the most beautiful part of it, is experience. The good, the bad. Yeah, it was just beautiful, the experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't even thought about that. Like that's your, because you left at such a young age, like that's your home country. That's where your roots are and your family's from. So to be able to go and see so much of it had to have been just incredibly rewarding, and to have that experience. And in a reality, your chances of going would have been slim to none outside of war, sadly. But it's cool that you got to reconnect with that part of yourself, and contribute and do your part, which is pretty awesome. So Sarah, I think the way we end these things is we always kind of give you the platform or the stage if there's something we didn't talk about, or something that maybe you really want to highlight or shine a light on. The floor is yours. Is there anything, final thoughts you have for everybody?
I would like to thank every single person who have served in the military, or civilians who served in Afghanistan, or any country that I've served. It's not easy to go and fight in a different country, especially that country is not your homeland, and you don't understand the language. So thanks to all of the military members, people who've lost their lives. May their souls rest in peace. And for their families, all I could do is pray. Yeah, how about you guys? What did you guys get from going there and being there? Like, what was your experience like? How do you feel, both of you?
Luke, I'll let you go first.
Well, for me, it's just, despite, like you said earlier, despite all the bad, there's so much good that comes with it, and it will always be a kind of transformative experience in that, I got to go and experience something that you never would have gotten to do in 1,000 years in the majority of the world, and to come away with like a really deep appreciation for the insight and wisdom that going to war provides, and to go somewhere like Afghanistan. Like, I deployed to Iraq too, and Iraq just felt different. I didn't connect to Iraq, but I connected to Afghanistan. And so it'll be an infinitely rewarding experience throughout my life. And I look forward to seeing the ways that my brief time spent there, continues to reveal the ways that it's impacted me in a positive and good way, for sure.
That's good to hear.
And I'd say for me, I mean, I wouldn't be the person that I am right now without Afghanistan. Luke kind of nailed it on the head. It's a transformative, or if it was a formative experience. It's something that my very young male brain at 25 years old experienced in a key stage of my life. And I got to go twice, so I got to kind of form a very, I don't want to say bond, but an attachment to the landscape. I wish I could say that I had been able to form an attachment to the people, but I think kind of as a result of the way that we wage war, that was never really an option for me in the jobs that I had. There were definitely people that did, like some of the SF guys really got to know the locals a lot more than we did, but I definitely got an attachment to the landscape, to the mountains, to the vast deserts, to just the uniqueness of it. And then, the real takeaway for me was just a deep sorrow for the people. Even though I wasn't able to connect with them like on a person-to-person level, you can absolutely empathize with a group of people and to understand the kind of the dead end that they're running up against. I always keep coming back to this idea that nobody is coming for the Pashto people. Even if the NRF take back Kabul, or they take back Mazar-e Sharif, or they take back Panjshir, they're not coming to Kandahar. They're not going to Helmand. They're not going to save those little girls. The only people in history that have actually given enough of a shit about the Pashto people to build them schools and to, try and give them the opportunity to rise above their situation has been us, has been NATO, it's been the UN. The Russians didn't give a shit when they went in there. They were just blowing everything up in sight. And since we've basically said we're not doing this anymore, I feel great sorrow for the people of Afghanistan, because at this point, if they don't do it for themselves, I don't think anybody's ever going to help them for decades.
That's very true. And that's how you guys decided to make this podcast, coming back and trying to relive kind of the experience and hear from people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we it's been a journey of discovery in a lot of ways. It's for me personally, because when I got out of the military, I just kind of left it all behind. I severed my ties, and I didn't really talk to people, and I just moved on with my life into different, into school and everything like that. But to reconnect with that experience through the podcast it's been a journey of discovery, realizing how much it impacted me, and how much of an important role it played into who I am now. It's been very rewarding. And getting to talk to people like you. I mean, in a million years, we would have never been able, in the real, out here in the real world, bouncing around, we never would have been able to connect. So it's been cool to talk with people like yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of part of capturing your history.
Yeah.
There's nothing really special about what we did. We were a very small piece in a very large machine. But it's still, at the end of the day, our little tiny contribution mattered to us. So I think this journey of being able to document what we went through, or what it was like to be in Panjway and Kandahar, and while it's still fresh enough for us to be able to offer something qualitative to the discussion, in that way, 50 years from now, like our grandkids can look at it or listen to it and kind of understand what we went through. I mean, I always think, what would it have been like if the veterans of World War II could have done a podcast in the late 1950s about what the war was like, with that perfect amount of time to reflect and mature, and to be able to actually understand what you went through. So I've definitely appreciated it for that, just that narrow window of opportunity to talk about it with some humility and some distance.
Yeah, and I'm sure people who are listening, they do appreciate it, because most people have no idea what you guys been through in Afghanistan or in Iraq. So it's a very good platform for them to understand the war better.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely part of our goal here for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
And, if we haven't mentioned it before, this is actually our final guest interview episode of the Panjway podcast, which is definitely very bittersweet, because next week will be kind of our finale when we kind of wrap everything up and tie it all together. But personally, I'm very glad that you, Sarah, are our final guest, because I think it's most fitting that the final word from a guest on our show is a child of Afghanistan. Someone who was born there, who got to see it through, adult eyes. I'm very appreciative that you agreed to come on and talk to us. I know it was something you were very nervous about, and I just wanted to make sure I said thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
You guys are awesome.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for listening to another episode of Season 3 of the Panjway Podcast. We appreciate you sticking with us all the way to the end of the episode. But just one more thing before you go, please hit the like and subscribe button and make sure that you are following us on our social media.